Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Dear brothers and sisters, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In supplication number 8 in the Sahifah Sajjadiyah, we see that when talk is given of seeking refuge, what are we seeking refuge from? The answer, the second pillar, was that shaitan and satanic traits. Now, satanic traits and satanic sovereignty can lead to an absence in your tawheed, absence in ethical virtues, and absence in actions of the Sharia. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam gives 40 or 50 traits that we want to seek refuge from, and 99% of them are ethical vices. They're not haram actions of the Sharia. They are ethical vices. Not all ethical vices are haram according to the Sharia. For example, jealousy, if it stays within and you don't express it, is an ethical vice, but it's not haram according to the Sharia. Holding on to grudges is an ethical vice, but it's not haram according to the Sharia. Not forgiving people is an ethical vice, but it's not haram according to the Sharia. But it's an ethical vice. Ethical vices pollute you, contaminate the soul. And if it reaches a certain threshold, it will make you more and more susceptible to commit haram of the Sharia. As I said, it's a precursor to actions of the Sharia. So if you fail in that realm, you'll fail in the Sharia. If you succeed, you'll succeed in the Sharia. It's a precursor. And here we see that Imam is mentioning these ethical traits. When he's mentioning isti'adah, it's these ethical traits. So we have to see what these ethical traits are and avoid them. We have to avoid them. This is the protocol given by the Imam. And this is where one of the best ways of isti'adah to be executed is through this mechanism of action. And this is something we can teach ourselves, our children, at a young age. But if we practice it ourselves and incorporate it ourselves, then our children will see and take it as a model. That's the best way. Even under 7-year-olds can learn these important principles if they see it within you. So, the Imam's focus, Imam's primary focus in supplication number 8 is saying, look, listen to me, O servant of Allah. Your ethical dimension has to be purified if you want to succeed in the Sharia. And then he says, I seek refuge in Allah from, and he goes through the different ethical vices. Now, a very good translation of the Sahifah is given by William Chittick, who is a very notable and very learned scholar of Islam, especially in mysticism. He had very good mentors in his years when he was in Iran, and he has also a very good introduction to the Sahifah, which I would recommend you to read to learn more about the Sahifah. So I'm using his translation. So he says, O God, I seek refuge in thee, in you, from, and now it starts, the agitation of cravings and greed, the violence of anger and wrath, the domination of envy, the frailty of patience, the lack of contentment, the surliness of character, the urgency of passion, being drowned in animalistic passions, the disposition to vehemence, following caprice, opposing guidance, the sleep of heedlessness, undertaking the toilsome, preferring falsehood over truth, persisting in sin, making little of disobedience, making much of obedience, vying with the wealthy. Now here, vying with the wealthy is, although it can be translated in another way, many wealthy people, as a result of what they have, they keep on making it an issue of we have more of X or Y or Z goods and commodities. We have this house, we have this car, we have this job. Seek refuge in Allah from such traits too. That's why one shouldn't socialize on too much of an intimate level with those who are wealthy, because they will be pushed away from Allah. Or disparaging the poor, guarding badly over those in our hands. For example, those who are working for you, you treat them badly. Failing to thank those who have done good to us, aiding a wrongdoer. Abandoning someone troubled. Look, first of all, and there's much more, but here, if I wanted to give a commentary on each one, we only have 10 sessions. I think on line 10, the dua would have finished, and that's without me going through the preliminaries. Now the point here, look, here, these are all ethical vices. And the important is that they're a precursor to you to succeed in the realm of the Sharia. But even abandoning someone troubled, it may not be haram from a Sharia point of view, but that silence is ethically polluting you. That silence in not saying anything or doing anything when people are being oppressed, it's an ethical contamination. It's an ethical vice, and it is contaminating you. And now Imam is saying this in the form of a dua. And this was during the peak of oppression, during the Umayyad dynasties, what happened after Karbala. So people were very, it was under like a martial law, very severe martial law. And here we see even aiding a wrongdoer. Sometimes you may do things which lead to you aiding a system of tyranny, a system of corruption, or corrupt people, especially those living in countries which are led by corrupt governments who have a say in the spilling of the blood of innocent life in Yemen, Palestine, Kashmir, Iraq, and Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so on and so forth. You are aiding those governments with your taxes. So you're polluting yourself. You're ethically polluting yourself. Does that mean you're not allowed to live in those countries? Well, one answer is yes. You shouldn't live in those countries, because why would you want to live somewhere where you're polluting yourself day in, day out? But let's say you wanted to stay in those countries for whatever reason, at least compensate. But the compensation is difficult. The compensation isn't just a physical, superficial compensation, which is good to some degree, but ethical vices have to be compensated with ethical virtues. And that's why it's almost impossible to compensate in those societies. Exit your home, muhajiran ilallah wa rasulihi. Now sometimes, people want to propagate religion in those countries. That's a temporary effort. It's a temporary endeavor. But taking your life there and the life of your children and raising them there, why would you want to do that? You have to look deep down again. What is the sovereignty deep down which has made you to make such a decision? Wanting what is not rightfully yours, speaking about knowledge without knowing. We seek refuge in you from harbouring dishonesty toward anyone, be it in word or action. Being pleased with our works, even when you're pleased with your works. For example, you say that I've helped X and Y person to do this. I've contributed to my local centre in doing this. I give so much charity. I've written so many works, and I've given many speeches. I've done this, that. Being pleased with yourself is another ethical contamination. Look, one by one, all these are ethically contaminating you. We have to seek refuge in Allah from them. Stretching out our expectations. Sometimes one is planning in the future. how many years are you going to live here? It's as if you're planning for the next 200 years. Planning to get a bigger house, planning to get a bigger car, a better job. These are not necessarily bad things, but if they're compromising that divine sovereignty, if it's compromising your tawheed, remember tawheed is the precursor to ethical virtues. What kind of tawheed? It's the practical tawheed, not an academic tawheed. And the practical tawheed is when traces of the dunya is eliminated in your heart. Where La ilaha illallah is predominating in your heart. You see Allah as the cause and the sole cause of everything. Not the doctor, not the teacher, not the bank manager. So it's a practical tawheed. It's when the heart becomes dunya free. Dunya being those false attributes that my house, my car, my this, my that, I've done. Free that from your heart, it's all Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And that is a precursor to ethical virtues. And then those ethical virtues are a precursor to you succeeding in the realm of the Sharia. So we shouldn't stretch out our expectations too much, otherwise we're contaminating ourselves. We seek refuge in thee from ill-mindedness, looking down on the small, Satan's gaining mastery over us, that's satanic sovereignty, times afflicting us, and the sovereigns oppressing us. We seek refuge in a sovereign oppressing you. Well, if you want to do true isti'aذah, I ask you, for those who are living under governments of oppression, like America, the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth, where the governments are suppressing and oppressing the people through their constitution, through their parliamentary bills. I ask you, if you are wholeheartedly living under such a tyrannical system, will isti'aذah ever apply to you? Can you ever say to yourself, I am a musta'idh, one who is seeking refuge? Of course not. That's a contradiction in terms, especially if you're not compensating for it, and the compensating is heavy. So just normally and silently leading your own life under such a tyranny and being silent and just raising your children there, you have to think twice about such a thing. We're very limited. We're only here for a number of years. Make the move, make the emigration, migrate. We seek refuge in thee from acting with prodigality and not having sufficiency. We seek refuge in thee from the gloating of enemies, indigent need for equals, living in hardship and dying without readiness. These are all consequences that can afflict all of us, and we seek refuge from them. But to do so, those ethical virtues have to be incorporated if we want to succeed. We seek refuge in thee from the most dreadful remorse, the greatest affliction, the most wretchedness, the evil end to the journey, the deprivation of reward, the advent of punishment. O God, bless Muhammad and his household, because they are the key. They are our criterion. They are the balance. To know what to do and to know what to refrain from, we have to simulate them, the Holy Messenger and his true successors. And through thy mercy, give to me refuge from all of that, and to all the faithful, both men and women, O most merciful of the merciful. And this ends this supplication, and it should become evident now, the importance of it. So we have to go through those traits, analyze them deeper and deeper, and then try to incorporate them or know what to refrain from on the ethical realm. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.